Let's discuss how to change the arbor on the Mereen-Johnson number 424 gang rip saw. This video is for training purposes only, and in no way should you attempt any of these steps unless you have been properly certified. Begin by conducting a proper lockout-tagout procedure. Ensure the saw is de-energized by attempting to start the feed belt as well as the arbor. Neither should start. Open the arbor access door to reveal the outboard bearing housing. Next, turn the press roll height adjustment wheel in a counterclockwise direction in order to lower the wooden bed plate. This will greatly reduce the number of rotations needed in order to raise the arbor the rest of the way. Turn the arbor hoist hand wheel in a clockwise direction until the blades have risen above the level of the wooden bed plate. Pull the arbor safety pin to release the arbor lock on the back of the outboard bearing housing. Rotate the arbor in either direction a few times to ensure the lock has dropped properly into position. From this view, you can see the lock has only engaged part of the way and needs the rotation of the arbor in order to drop down and properly lock the arbor from turning. Now that the arbor can no longer spin freely, you may loosen the arbor nut with the arbor wrench and a dead blow hammer. Once it is loose, you may loosen the clamping nut in the same method. Each nut is loosened by turning in a counterclockwise direction. Remove the clamping nut from the arbor and set it aside. Use a 15/16 wrench to loosen the two fastener nuts located on the top of the outboard bearing housing. A couple rotations each should be sufficient. Once loosened, the outboard bearing housing can be removed completely. Unscrew and remove the arbor nut, and then install the slip-off bearing housing to protect the arbor threads. Be sure the slip-off bearing housing is firmly seated over the threads and that the tapered end is pointed towards you. Slide the arbor sleeve off of the arbor by pulling it towards you slowly. Be sure not to slide the arbor sleeve completely off of the arbor until you have properly adjusted your carrying position. Whenever possible, place your arms in between the blades as shown in order to reduce risk of injury while carrying the arbors. Slide the arbor sleeve onto an available sleeve stabilizer at the arbor changing table. Rotate the sleeve until the stabilizer's locking pin is lined up with the corresponding notch in the arbor sleeve. This will keep the sleeve from rotating while it is being worked on. The arbor installation process is essentially the reverse of the arbor removal process. Carefully move the arbor sleeve from the sleeve stabilizer back to the gang rip saw's arbor. Slide the arbor sleeve the entire length of the arbor and rotate back and forth while applying pressure inward until you feel the lock pins of the arbor slide into the notches on the arbor sleeve. Remove the slip-off bearing housing and replace the arbor nut. Hand tighten only at this time. Reinstall the outboard bearing housing and then thread the clamping nut onto the arbor. Finger tighten for now. Use the 15/16 wrench to hand tighten the fastener nuts on top of the outboard bearing housing. Using an arbor wrench and a dead blow hammer, thoroughly tighten the clamping nut. Repeat the process with the arbor nut, with both nuts being turned in a clockwise direction. Lift the arbor lock from the lower lock position to the upper rest position. Be sure that the arbor pin recedes into the hole that's drilled into the arbor lock. Failure to perform this step properly could result in injury or damage. Rotate the press roll height adjustment wheel clockwise until the measurement gauge indicates it is at the proper height for the next cut. Check to be sure you have removed all tools from inside the saw before closing the arbor access door and latching securely. Use a light to look between the wooden bed plate and the feed belt. Rotate the arbor hoist hand wheel counterclockwise until the blades are resting just above the surface of the feed belt, or approximately 1/16 of an inch. The saw is now ready to be re-energized and placed back into service.